Hello everyone, I am Kanchan and welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services, a premier institution for preparing for civil services in India. Today, I am here for a daily news and editorial analysis for 29th of February and 1st of March 2024. And this editorial analysis is going to be important for all three stages of UPSC, which are UPSC prelims, mains and interview process. And apart from UPSC exams, this editorial analysis is going to be important for all the government exams in India. So without further delay, let us begin the analysis.
पहली बार चंडीगढ़ मेयर चुनाव में कुल 36 वोटों में से 8 वोट इनवैलिड घोषित कर दिए गए। इतिहास में आज तक नहीं हुआ।
Recently, the Supreme Court of India invoked the Article 142 of the Constitution of India to overturn the mayoral elections in the Chandigarh. And in this context, this news becomes important for UPSC prelims perspective and also for the GS2 of UPSC mains. And under GS2, the syllabus that this news caters to is the separation of powers and judiciary. In this news, we are going to discuss about the Article 142 of the Constitution and its provisions. Then we'll discuss about the criticisms of Article 142 of the Constitution. And then we'll discuss about the judicial overreach and the judicial activism in India and the difference between the two. So let us begin the analysis. So as we just discussed, the Supreme Court of India invoked the Article 142 of the Constitution to overturn the Chandigarh mayoral elections that was held recently, because in this mayoral election, the presiding officer announced the winner by invalidating the 8 votes which was casted in favor of the opponent party. And the Supreme Court of India cancelled the elections to ensure the basic structure of the Constitution and to uphold the sanctity of the electoral process in India. So talking about the Article 142 of the Constitution of India, this article empowers the Supreme Court of India to pass any decree or order necessary for doing the complete justice in any case or matter pending before it. So the Supreme Court of India invokes this article for doing complete justice or for providing complete justice to the people of India. So for this reason, this article is very important, and these decrees or the orders are enforceable across India's territory. So whatever decrees that the Supreme Court of India makes under Article 142 of the Constitution would be valid all across the India. And the Article 142 of the Constitution of India is supported by various provisions of the articles. For instance, Article 32, which ensure the right of constitutional remedies, also supports the Article 142. Article 41, which mandates that all the courts within India must abide by the Supreme Court's decision, also supports Article 142. And the Article 136, which allows the special leave petition for the people of India, also supports the Article 142 of the Constitution. So these articles together form a collective framework for the judicial activism in India. So through the judicial activism, Supreme Court can override the parliamentary legislation to deliver the complete justice. So through the judicial activism, Supreme Court of India can deliver the complete justice by using the Article 142 of the Constitution of India. And this reinforces the court's role as the guardian of Constitution. So the Article 142 of the Constitution of India basically reinforces the idea that the Supreme Court of India is the highest court of authority, and also the Supreme Court of India is the guardian of the Constitution. And Supreme Court of India in Union Carbide versus Union of India case used this article or invoked this article previously. And by invoking the Article 142 of the Constitution of India, Supreme Court of India basically imposed a huge amount of fine which amounted to around $470 million to the Union Carbide. This Union Carbide case was also called the Bhopal gas tragedy, and in this Bhopal gas tragedy, the Supreme Court of India, by invoking the Article 142 of the Constitution of India. So these were the important provisions related to Article 142 of the Constitution of India. Now let us look at the criticisms related to 142 of the Constitution of India, and also let us look at the difference between the judicial activism and the judicial overreach in India, and also let us understand what is the separation of power in India. The main criticism of Article 142 of the Constitution of India is that this article might encroach upon the separation of powers in India. The doctrine of separation of powers divides the powers among the three organs of the democracy, and the main purpose of this doctrine of separation of power is to prevent the accumulation of power in the single organ of democracy. So the three organs of the government in the doctrine of separation of power is the judiciary, parliament and the executive government. Here the parliament makes the law and also amends the law, and the law made by the parliament is put into effect or executed by the executive government, and the judiciary has the power to make the judgments on these laws. So basically the judiciary reviews the laws made by the parliament, and they also oversee how the law is being executed by the executive authority. So this is the basic separation of power, and each organ of the democracy has been vested with its own powers. So this explains the separation of power, and this doctrine of separation of power was given by the Montesquieu, who was the French philosopher. And so far as the second criticism of Article 142 of the Constitution of India is concerned, this article might lead to judicial overreach in India. So the judicial overreach happens when the judiciary exceeds the power that is given to it, and also the judiciary might interfere in the day-to-day administration of the executive and the legislative authority. So if the judiciary interferes in the day-to-day administration of the government of India or the day-to-day functioning of the legislative authority in India, then that would be called the judicial overreach. So this judicial overreach is different from the judicial activism, because judicial activism is a positive term, and in the judicial activism, Supreme Court actively preserves the country's legal authority and the constitutional system, and also upholds the citizens' right. So the judicial activism is the positive term, and the judicial overreach is the negative term, and judicial activism is desirable to protect the constitutional values, and the judicial overreach is undesirable because it is considered illegitimate in democracy. And this judicial overreach might breach the principle of separation of powers. And so far as the judicial activism is concerned, this promotes the social change and protects the vulnerable groups, and the judicial overreach can undermine the democracy. So these are the basic difference between the judicial overreach and the judicial activism. So you need to know about the difference between these two terms. UPSC in many instances has asked about the judicial activism and the judicial overreach and their differences. So you need to know about them in detail. So these were the important facts about the Article 142 of the Constitution of India. Now let us look at the PYQ that has been asked from the similar topic. UPSC in 2019 asked the simple question related to Article 142 of the Constitution of India, and the question was, with reference to Constitution of India, prohibitions or limitations or provisions contained in ordinary laws cannot act as prohibitions or limitations on the constitutional powers under 142 of the Constitution of India. It could mean which of the following? So in this question, UPSC has simply asked whether the parliament or the legislature has power to prevent the Supreme Court of India to exercise its powers under 142 or not. So if you just know about what is contained in Article 142 of the Constitution of India, you can easily answer this question. And so far as the Supreme Court of India is concerned, it is the highest court of authority in India, and it has the power to review the laws made by the Parliament of India. And the Parliament of India cannot take the powers granted to the Supreme Court of India under Article 142 of the Constitution. So basically, Article 142 of the Constitution of India reiterates the fact that Supreme Court of India is the highest court of authority, and it is the guardian of the Constitution of India. So by looking at the options, you can easily answer this question. Wherever the Supreme Court has been mentioned, that would be your answer. And in none other option than the option B has the Supreme Court of India been mentioned in the options. And the Supreme Court of India is not constrained in the exercise of its powers by laws made by the Parliament. So Parliament cannot override the powers that has been granted to the Supreme Court of India under Article 142 of the Constitution. So, this is the simple question, and this type of question is asked in UPSC. So, you need to be prepared about this type of question, and you should not be confused with the confusing statements that has been given in the statement. So, that was all about the Article 142 of the Constitution of India. Now, let us move into another topic of discussion for today. Before I move into another topic of discussion for today, I have an important announcement for you. Those who are appearing for UPSC CSE Prelims 2024, Nissay All India Test Series program of Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services is must attempt for all, because this test series contains the 4900 high quality questions curated by the experts from Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services, and the recorded discussions on these tests are also available. And the most important feature of this test series is that the money will be refunded to the students if the students finds this test to be unsatisfactory. So, you can register yourself for this test by scanning the QR code given here, and you can also get the details of this test in the description section. So, this is a golden opportunity for you all, and you should not miss this opportunity. So, that was the important announcement that I had for you. Now, let us move into another topic of discussion for today. Recently, the Global Pulses Conference was held, and in this context, this news becomes important for UPSC Prelims perspective, and also for the GS2 of UPSC Mains, and also for the GS3 of UPSC Mains. And under GS2, this topic caters to the syllabus which is the government policies and interventions, and under GS3, the syllabus that this topic caters to is the agricultural marketing. And in this topic, we are going to discuss about the context of the news in detail. We will discuss about the Global Pulse Confederation, we will discuss about the status of pulse production in India, and lastly we will discuss about the significance of pulses for India. So, without further ado, let us begin the analysis. So, as we just discussed, the context of the news is recently the Global Pulse Conference was held, and this conference is the annual gathering of the pulse producers, processors and the traders. And this conference was jointly organized by the NAFED and the Global Pulse Confederation. And so far as the Global Pulse Confederation is concerned, it is the confederation with 24 national associations and over 500 private sector members, and it is based in Dubai, and it is licensed by the Dubai Multi Commodity Center, that is GMCC. And this conference is very important for India because India is aiming to achieve the self-sufficiency in pulses by 2027. So, these are the important facts about the Global Pulse Confederation. Now, let us look at the status of pulse production in India. So far as India is concerned, India is the largest producer of pulses, and it contributes 25% of global pulse production worldwide. And India is also the largest consumer of the pulses in the world, and India constitutes around 27% of the global consumption of the pulses. And not only that, India is the largest importer of the pulses as well, because India imports the 14% of total global imports of the pulses in the world. So, these are the important facts related to the pulses, and in India, pulses account for around 20% of the area under the food grains, and around 7 to 10% of the total food grains production in India is contributed by the pulses. The top pulse producing states in India are Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka. So, the Madhya Pradesh is the largest pulse producer in India, and most importantly, pulses in India are cultivated during all the seasons, and the main varieties are the Rabi pulses and the Kharif pulses. And the Rabi pulses contribute around 60% of the pulse production in India, and gram, which is chickpea, chana, which is called the Bengal gram, masoor, which is also called lentil, arhar, which is also called the pigeon pea, are the Rabi pulses in India, and the Kharif pulses are moong, which is also called the green gram, urad, which is also called the black gram, tur, which is also called the arhar dal. So, these are the Kharif pulses. So, you need to know which pulses are the Kharif pulses and which pulses are the Rabi pulses, because in UPSC this type of question is asked in prelims. So, you need to know about the which crops are the Kharif crops and which crops are the Rabi crops. So, these were the important facts related to the status of pulse production in India. Now, let us look at the significance of pulses for India. Pulses are very significant for human life because pulses are also called the nutritional powerhouse, because pulses are rich in protein, fiber, vitamins and the minerals, and they also provide the essential nutrients for the human being. So, for this reason pulses are very important. And the second significance of pulses is that they enrich the soil by fixing the nitrogen. So, the pulses basically fix the nitrogen in the soil and they improve the fertility and they reduce the need for the use of synthetic fertilizers in the soil. And the third significance of pulses is that the pulses are also called the climate smart crops, because pulses are drought tolerant and they are water efficient, because very less amount of water is required for the cultivation of pulses, and also the pulses have the lower carbon footprint compared to the other crops. So, for this reason pulses are also called the climate smart crops. And the fourth significance of pulses is that if the pulses are rotated with the other crops, the soil structure will improve and this will also reduce the disease cycle and it will also suppress the weeds. So, for this reason pulse cultivation is very important for India and also for the world. So, these were the important significance of the pulses. Now, let us look at the initiatives taken by the government in this area. Government has started various initiatives for improving the pulse production in India. The first important initiative is the National Food Security Mission Pulses, which is also called NFSM Pulses. The second important initiative is the PM ASA scheme, and the third initiative is the Price Stabilization Fund for the pulses. And most importantly, government has a dedicated portal for tur dal procurement. So, the tur dals are basically procured by the NAFED and the National Cooperative Consumers Federation of India Limited, which is NCCF, at the minimum support price. So, these are the important government initiatives of India. Now, what is NAFED? NAFED is basically a National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India Limited, and this was established in 2nd October 1958. And it is registered under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act. So, this is very important point. So, this is not registered under the Central Cooperative Act or the State Cooperative Act, but this is registered under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act, and it is an apex organization of the marketing cooperatives for the agricultural producers in India. So, this is very important point, and it is currently one of the largest procurers of the agricultural products like onions, pulses, etc. So, these are the important facts about the NAFED. So, you need to know about these organizations as well. UPSC particularly asks about these organizations in detail. So, these were the important facts related to the pulses and the Global Pulse Conference. Now, let us move into another topic of discussion for today. Recently, the 200th anniversary of the Kittur rebellion of the Rani Chennamma was celebrated all across India, and in this context this news becomes important for UPSC prelims perspective and also for the GS1 of the UPSC mains. And under GS1 this topic falls under the syllabus Modern History of India. And in this topic we are going to discuss about the context of the news in detail. We will discuss about the Rani Chennamma and her history, and then we will discuss about the Kittur rebellion in detail, and lastly we will discuss about the doctrine of lapse in India. So, without further delay, let us begin the analysis. So, as we just discussed, the context of the news is that the several social groups across the country organized the national campaign called Nanu Rani Chennamma, which means I am Rani Chennamma too, to commemorate the 200 years of Rani Chennamma's rebellion, which is also called the Kittur rebellion. So, this was the context of the news. So, you also need to know about the name of the campaign to which it relates to. So, talking about the Rani Chennamma, she was born in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐝, which is a small village located in Belgavi district of Karnataka, and she also became the queen of Kittur. And the Rani Chennamma had adopted a child called 𝐶𝐵, but unfortunately the British East India Company refused to recognize the 𝐶𝐵 as the successor of the kingdom, following the doctrine of lapse principle. So, the main background of the Kittur rebellion is the doctrine of lapse, because under doctrine of lapse 𝐶𝐵 was not allowed as the successor of the Kittur kingdom. So, these were the important details about the Rani Chennamma, and now let us look at the Kittur rebellion and the doctrine of lapse in detail. So, as we just discussed, the background of Kittur rebellion lies in the doctrine of lapse. And talking about the key facts of the Kittur rebellion, the John Thackeray, who was the British official at Dharwad, launched an attack on Kittur in October 1824. In the first battle with John Thackeray, The collector and the political agent John Thackeray was killed by the Kittur forces, and also the two important British officers called Walter Elliot and the Stevenson was taken as hostages by the Kittur forces. However, the British army again attacked the Kittur forces and the Kittur fort and captured it, and Rani Chennamma and her family were imprisoned and jailed where she died in 1829. So these were the important background of the Kittur rebellion. And talking about the doctrine of lapse, under doctrine of lapse, any princely state without natural heir would collapse and would be annexed by the company. And the princely state of Kittur was taken over by the British East India Company in 1824 by imposing the doctrine of lapse, even before the doctrine of lapse was started by the British East India Company. So the most important fact about the Kittur rebellion was that the principle of doctrine of lapse was imposed in the Kittur region much before the doctrine of lapse was started in India by the Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General of British East India Company between 1848 to 1856. So these were the important facts about the Rani Chennamma, Kittur rebellion and also the doctrine of lapse. Now let us look at the PYQ that has been asked from the similar topic. UPSC in 2013 asked this question in mains, and the question was, defying the barriers of age, gender and religion, the Indian women became the torch bearer during the struggle for freedom in India. Discuss. So this question basically asked about the role of women in Indian freedom struggle, and you need to know about the role played by different women in the Indian freedom struggle. And Rani Chennamma can be quoted in this answer, and you can also quote about the Jhansi ki Rani, Sarojini Naidu, Usha Mehta, etc. So the role of the women freedom fighters in the struggle for independence is very important, so you need to know about them. So for this reason, Rani Chennamma was very important for the UPSC mains perspective. So this was the last topic of discussion for today's daily news and editorial analysis as well. And today as well, I have got an important quote of the day for you. Now let us look at the quote that I have got for you. The today's quote of the day is, success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. So the UPSC aspirants should keep this quote in mind in their preparation for UPSC Civil Services examination, because failure is inevitable and success is not final, but you have to have the courage to continue. So this was the quote of the day for you, and with that quote I am concluding today's session. We'll meet again in the next video. Till then, take care.